And as Nigeria continues to celebrate her 61st independence, it is important for leaders to ensure a new political culture that stands on the tripod of integrity, accountability, and justice. This is the focus of a political summit by a group of pro-democracy activists, the National Consultative Front in Abuja, with a theme, restoring the legitimacy of the Nigerian state.
For the National Consultative Forum, having this national discourse in October is a better way to celebrate Nigeria's independence. How to entrench good governance is the major issue of this course here.
One of the ways to begin to halt the decay is to bring remarkable improvements in the ways and the means by which public officials are elected. The electoral process must have integrity to enable people with integrity to be elected freely and fairly by the people.
This is how leaders govern the people. First, put them down there, impoverish them, inflict maximum pains on them. Then when they are helpless and humbled, you give them crumbs that fall from your master's table. They will still come back to you again and eat the crumbs. That precisely is the sorry state of Nigeria today. The people themselves have been made so vulnerable that they are ready to take 1,000 naira and a bag or a mudu of salt or gari or rice to enthrone tyranny for the next 4 years.
Some of the speakers say the political class has weaponized poverty as a political tool to keep the masses permanently down. However, getting it right in Nigeria is easy if the institutions are made accountable to the people.
Now, every day, somebody small, somebody big, somebody celebrated is killed in our country. And it goes just like another story. Just like that. This must stop. And we beg everybody in position of authority that they have a duty to man and to God to stop this.
What we need now is a coalition of forces for a new Nigeria. A coalition of forces for a new Nigeria. No matter what you think, you can make contribution to this.
A few people that have grabbed power illegitimately are now determined to further destroy the foundation of our unity. They are determined to ensure that parts of this country are thrown outside Nigeria, and they have a right to legitimate determination of their future. So I want to urge INEC to go ahead and exercise their constitutional powers. And the ordinary citizens of Nigeria must back them. I must stand by them.
We cannot have the country we aspire and dream for if we don't have a process of electing leaders that is credible. When you have a process where people buy votes, people buy nominations, all what you have is transactions.
The discourse ended with a call on the Independent National Electoral Commission to deepen democracy by ensuring the implementation of electronic transmission of election results in 2023, which they say will guarantee the integrity of the process.
Well, joining us now to take a look at Nigeria's political journey in the last 61 years is Kalu Idika Kalu, who is a former presidential aspirant who has also served differently as Nigeria's Minister of Finance, National Planning, as well as Transportation. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program. And of course, a good place to start this conversation is this group that actually converged on the nation's capital, Abuja. Would you say that this is the much anticipated third force that Nigerians have been looking forward to, especially as we look forward to 2023? I don't know if Mr. Kalu Idika Kalu can actually hear me. I'm actually talking about this pro-democracy activist who actually converged on the nation's capital. Of course, you're part of that group. I'm asking if it's the much anticipated third force that Nigerians have been clamoring for.
Yes, I think we are at a juncture where we should begin to address our problems very seriously. I'm aware of that gathering, and of course I'm totally supportive of the need for us at 61 to take a very serious look into the past so that we should not presume the future until we do something about the problems that we think are structurally wrong in the society. This is a very good juncture, and we are still far away from 2023. If there is agreement, if there is the sense of a purpose as to how this nation should emerge as a modern industrial country, there should be no dispute as to the need for us to look at all the issues about the Constitution, the issues that underpin the economy, the issues about security, including security of elections. I think most Nigerians were aghast when there was so much disputation over whether results should be transmitted electronically. Well, it sounds simple enough, but that also addresses the issue of infrastructure, power, the issue of security in terms of security apparatchik within the country, the police, the security services, the army, that should secure individual persons 70 years and one after independence with all the resources we have. Clearly, people are really aghast at how difficult it's been for our current government to secure the people of Nigeria. This is their primary function. I know that when you are out of power, when you are looking at it from a distance, in whatever capacity you are, the tendency is to make it look so easy. But I think for some of us who've been involved, as you mentioned, several years, we think this country has the resource base, this country has the, what we call the leverage to mobilize what it needs to do the needful in terms of security, in terms of financing infrastructure, in terms of making sure that development keeps ahead of population growth, so there will be accretion of positive income over the years. So I think we are at a very important juncture, and I think the debate should go on. As I said, I think there is enough time. If the will is there, there is enough time, and this is a large country. We are probably, I think, number 8 in the world now. So if a significant number of our population, of our electorate, of our business sector, of our traditional rulership, think that we need to take a look at the way we operate our system to make sure that wherever you are, in the Northeast, in the Northwest, in the Niger Delta, in the West, in the East, anywhere you are, you should hold your head high because you have your rights, you have your privileges as accorded to you in the Constitution, that those who are set to rule over us always realize that they are there to serve the people. I had a discussion earlier in the day on your station where the issue of whether the people own the Nigeria police. The people should own their security because they contribute to make sure that those who are trained and employed to protect them are fairly treated, are well treated, their families are well taken care of, so they face the job of providing minimum security to all vestiges of the population. Whatever your profession is, whether you are a farmer, a doctor, a teacher, we've seen all kinds of excesses in terms of the abuse of the rights of the average Nigerian. That having been said, for some of us who've been around the world, these are the questions being raised everywhere. So we should never really think that this is a very unique situation. So we should lower the tempo of this discussion. It's not the decibels of the shouting that drives the point. We must speak to facts. We must be mindful of other people's positions. We must lower the whole tempo of our discourse so we can hear one another when we discuss these issues. So in answer to your question, yes, this is a very appropriate juncture. And as I said, we are lucky we are still 2 years away from the general elections. But even if we are not to have enough time and we set ourselves to correct these issues,
okay,
that is far more important than going headlong into elections and carrying ahead all the baggage from the recent past.
All right.
All right, I just wanted to ask you this question, but in a moment we'll be going on a short break. But if you can, if not, when we return, you can stay inside. I mean, beyond all the developmental issues, how would you underscore 61 years of Nigeria's journey as a nation? Are there no positives to really write home about, away from the agitation for self-determination or restructuring has been canvassed by this group? Maybe you...
you have to probably marinate
yeah.
on that because we have to head for that quick break. But of course, when we come back, he'll be responding to that question and so much more here on Newsnight. Welcome back. You're still watching Newsnight here on Arise News from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Amaka Ode.
I am Christian Ogdo. Thanks for staying with us. Okay, we still have as our guest Kalu Idika Kalu, former presidential candidate and former Minister of Finance, National Planning and Transportation. Well, before we went on that commercial break, I asked you to give us some of the positives, you know, that Nigeria as a nation 61 years on may have achieved, you know, without allowing the issue of self-determination or restructuring overshadow some of the growth Nigeria has made.
Yes, thank you very much. I said earlier that at this juncture, we can't afford to be waffling through these issues. Yes, a few months ago, for those who watch American network, CNN, a very prominent speaker was trying to tell the Americans that they shouldn't bar Nigerians from coming to America because, lo and behold, Nigeria ranked very high in so many respects. Nigerians in America. If you look at the scorecard from so many sectors, science, education, we find Nigerians are still doing very well, by and large. As I said, we're among the top in terms of population. But while that must derive from some kind of positive thing, positive achievements, we cannot delude ourselves that we are not where we expected to be. A lot was expected of Nigeria. At independence, we were way above so many of the Asian countries, some of which I worked on as a staff of the World Bank. You know, in East Asia and Pacific, we have Indonesia, Malaysia, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, Japan, and so on and so forth. We measured very well in terms of normal indications of life expectancy, infant mortality, and so on and so forth. But over the years, we have not really utilized the resources we have. And as I said, with those resources, we have no business not attaining the kinds of growth we should have had because we could leverage on those resources to make sure that the investment levels are appropriate, they are structured properly, but above all, that we allocate people who, by virtue of their training and experience, are in a position to drive the growth so that the growth of incomes will supersede the growth of population, and we're expanding water supply, roads, power, and all these other heavy and if you like, soft infrastructure like health facilities and so on and so forth. From that standpoint, if you look at the standard of living, the quality of life, we have fallen short of what we should have set ourselves at independence. Every major country actually thought Nigeria should be much higher than where we are. And it is on that basis, while we don't run away from the fact that we are certainly not a basket case. We are pretty close to it now. It could be worse. That is really the summation. It could be worse. So we cannot afford to not address the structural issues of this country. I can enumerate some. Before we go into the political arena, you talk about the quality of education. For Nigerians to have sustained some of the best schools, medical schools, law schools, and so on and so forth, there was a high standard which we inherited, which we sustained to a certain extent up to the end of the war, perhaps, and early in the 70s. But thereafter, and you know, thereafter was when the oil price quadrupled, and we were importing heavily. Instead of re-injecting the savings from this high spot of income into the areas that we had with comparative advantage, namely agriculture and, of course, infrastructure, health, and so on and so forth. I think that is where we missed it. We started managing our exchange rate in a way to give us a false impression of the real purchasing power of our total resources, whereas we should have kept those prices so that investors, domestic investors and others, will know precisely what they were putting their money into, so that we didn't get into just importing left, right, and center, where we started to reduce the capacity of local investment to provide jobs in various sectors. And then with that bifurcated growth of people just getting money rather easily and now indulging in just consumption, which was filled with importation rather than domestic supply sources. That is when we started missing the boat. And of course, this has impact on all the structures, education, the political structures, the politicking, the picking of leadership at various levels. So yes, there are positive things, but I think we need to look at the structure. A lot of people have blamed the presidential system. They say they prefer the parliamentary system. That is probably true, but it's not necessarily the case, because I think more people agree that something happened to the quality of leadership. Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, everybody that has spoken out has said that.
Well, I like the fact that you've actually touched on the quality of leadership, because some would actually argue and say that Nigeria's fundamental issues would actually be the issue of leadership. That's the reason why we're not still a world powerhouse as we're supposed to be, looking at our numbers as well as, you know, the resources that this nation really has. But, you know, we have to dive into the political sphere. You are one person who's actually been around. You were an aspirant back in 2003. You did try to become president of Nigeria. So I would like to really get your take on something that is a pivotal issue, especially as we look forward to the 2023 elections, which is the issue of zoning. We have seen a lot of, you know, palpitations from both the north and the south. Do you think it should be the best man that should become Nigeria's president, or should we look at, you know, the best region? Looking at, you know, all that has been going on in the polity.
Yes, I think, you know, some of the things we are saying now just underscore the problems that we have had. Well, you look back during the colonial days, we didn't zone political leadership in terms of those who fought for our independence. People emerged because of the quality of their leadership. Men and women, because of the sheer quality of their training, their adherence to what the people wanted, and the kinds of structure they were expecting, the kind of freedom we were fighting for. So we should always realize that, yes, the issue of zoning looks quite unscientific, if you might ask me, but it is because of the problems we've had. Having said that, I think we should now go back to why the quality of leadership has not been what we expected. We begin to look at the entire socialization process, the educational process, the standards we set. You know, at the time I was getting out of college, this whole question about quota system, a merit system, and so on and so forth started coming up. Well, some of us saw it as an aberration because there's more than one way to address that issue. We saw that with the growth of population, with the expansion of cities and so on, so you had to make sure that you sustain the kind of quality of schools, primary schools, colleges, technical schools, and other schools right up to the higher institutions by making sure that we invested. UNESCO has certain percentages that you need to be put into education. In fact, when I actually was a candidate, I went beyond being an aspirant. I was a candidate. I actually ran for election. And I explained that to just use 15%, which was recommended by UNESCO, I assumed that you already had attained a certain level. But as we saw the standards begin to erode, we needed to put more money into schools, to put more money into those areas where people were disadvantaged. And I went to school where a lot of quota effects were brought into being. People were brought in on quota or lower scores, and lo and behold, within a few years, they were getting to the middle and top of the classes. So the evidence was there that we needed to invest appropriately. So it is the content of our investment that led us to a position where we are now getting leaders who may not be as adequately prepared as they ought to be, because maybe they've not been adequately prepared in terms of the political process, in terms of the educational attainment and things of this sort. So the zoning issue just reflects the problems of the country.
All right.
We should not really be there. We
That's
should really be at a
very
position where
nice place to drop the anchor, and wish to thank you so fervently for your contributions on the 61st Independence Anniversary of Nigeria. That's Kalu Idika Kalu, former presidential aspirant and former Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.